back to another episode of This Square Room. I am Joe.
Des,
I'm excited today.
Joe, you're excited today.
You're not excited?
I don't know.
A little bit. You know what? So in last week's episode, Des mentioned that he has a friend who wants to, or who's open to like being on the podcast, who is into BDSM.
Yep.
And he agreed to be on the podcast. So today we are getting a little lesson in BDSM.
We
101.
are 101.1.
Point one, I guess. Yeah. Like this is exciting. Like someone who lives the lifestyle.
The little that I know about him, he's very open and very forthcoming.
I mean, you gotta be
with
open
his
to
BDSM.
Oh.
Like he wants to make sure you know why you're into it. Like, is this a problem that you haven't realized?
Right.
Because I don't want to be a part of that problem.
Right. Like he does it in like a healthy. Okay.
We're on it.
So your friend Saintless,
Yes,
has agreed to be on the episode.
Yes.
So like we will still, we'll get to listener questions, we'll get to the rambling, but like I think we just need to jump in. I'm excited. I want to just call him. So this is going to be a phone interview for anonymity purposes, but sometimes when we do our like phone of friends, we just kind of like put the phone up to the speaker. No. Y'all are gonna hear him
live.
Yes, we're gonna try to make the audio quality as good as possible. Keep in mind it is Dez's phone.
All right. Okay.
You guys know Dez's phone.
Right. Okay.
Show them your screen, how cracked it is. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. No. So I mean, we're working with what we're working with.
Yeah.
But all right. Let's give him. Oh wait, before you call, let me just preface. So I mean, we will confirm with him, but he's into like BDSM, specifically the D. Do you know what BDSM stands for?
I literally Googled it.
You didn't know
30
before
seconds.
this?
Fuck no, I don't give a fuck what it stands for.
Bondage,
yes,
domination, or discipline.
Yes.
You don't know sadism?
No, hold on.
And masochism.
I was just about to tell you because that's how
literally
for real. No joke.
We've been talking about BDSM for years.
I know.
And
I've never cared what it stood for until now.
Yeah. So BDSM, I have my like little spark notes here. It is a type of sexual practice that stands for bondage, domination, discipline, sadism, and masochism, like I just said. It's essentially just like an umbrella term for a bunch of kinks and pleasures that can be under that category, ranging in like levels of like how serious.
This can wait until after the call or during the call, depending on how the conversation goes. But me and girlfriend got into it about that today.
About BDSM?
Yeah.
Or about the call?
About the call and BDSM stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, BDSM, like it's a range. It's not always the most extreme, and it's not always the most, like it depends on like.
Yeah. Actually, I'll get into it quick.
Well, can I finish the definition?
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea, in case you guys don't know, the idea of bondage and domination are usually pretty straightforward, I feel. Like bondage, handcuffs, ties, whatever, domination, someone being the dominant one. But I feel like a lot of people don't always understand what sadism and masochism are. So to put it simply, sadism is when you get pleasure or sexual gratification from inflicting pain or humiliation on someone else. And masochism is when you get the pleasure or sexual gratification when pain or humiliation, like your own.
Receiving it,
yeah. So that's just to kind of give you. So, and you can be into one, you can be into the B without the DSM, or you can, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't. So that's why I said it's an umbrella term. Go for it.
Okay. I'm actually going to call them so they're not waiting, and I'm going to say it at the same time.
Sure.
Okay. Ooh.
Still put your phone in the middle so he can hear us.
Hello? Saintless.
Hey, yes.
Okay.
Hello.
You're live.
Oh crap. Hi Joe. Hi Deswayne. Nice to have you.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually tell a quick story before you start, right? So on the way here, I was talking to girlfriend about what we're gonna talk about on the podcast. So she's like, "Oh, Des, you're into BDSM." I said, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "Yeah, you are, because you like the whole tie up and stuff." And I was like, I mean, I've done it, but I wouldn't say I'm into BDSM. She's like, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it's not. And she's like, yeah, because it's just a feeling. So I said, if a girl kisses a girl one time, and that's the only time she's ever kissed a girl, does that make her a lesbian? No. And she's like, well, if she feels like she's into girls, then she is. I said, okay. So if your boyfriend is sucking dick left, right, and center, and he's just like, hey, I'm just sucking dick, I have no emotional attachment to these guys, that means he ain't gay? Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, that's literally what you just said. It's an emotional thing. Oh, no. And then I stopped listening once she took back what she said. And yeah. So do you feel like BDSM, like for someone who's only into a small fraction of bondage, if they're like, oh yeah, I'm into BDSM, are you like, you're not into shit?
No, never. Whatever amount you want to dip your toe into, it's kind of like, oh, there's the ocean. Did you get wet? It's double entendre. But did you get wet? Did you dip your toe in the ocean? Oh, you did. Then whatever amount that you want to, I don't make any sort of distinction. In the same way that, like, I remember a buddy of mine, we went out to like a cottage, my partner and a few buddies, and I brought some whiskey, one of my favorites, and he asked me, hey man, do you mind if I water this down with water? And I'm like, dude, no, I don't mind. This is my favorite whiskey. Most whiskey people might say, oh, God, you monster, how could you? But I'm like, no, it's your preference. You do it as much as you want to do it with however much you're comfortable with it. You know, that's the way it should be, especially in BDSM, especially in kink, where like the whole point is two adults, mature, coming together, you know, just have fun effectively. Yeah.
Shut up.
But it's true, though.
No, I know.
It's like you can like technically being like tied up, like tied to a bed, handcuffed, whatever, is bondage. It's not the most extreme form, but it is. So it's like, I still think it counts. You don't have to be into the most extreme stuff to be considered, you know, under that, like.
For me, I'm not saying, I didn't say that it's not. What I said was I wouldn't walk around and say I'm into BDSM.
No, well, are you into being tied up or tied
Fuck no, don't tie me up.
Right, so then you're not into it. You can try something without being into.
And I said, so if you watch, like, you can watch BDSM porn and it can get you off, but you don't physically want to go through any of that. So you like watching other people do it. Does that mean you're into BDSM? It means you're into watching people do it, but you yourself are not into physically going through it or doing that to somebody. Mm-hmm. And she tried to tell me, no, yeah. Don't mind her.
But I will say something to that, because okay, for example, yeah, if you are watching, say, BDSM stuff on whatever, and you feel things, then you're able to release, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're into it in the same way that, like, say, for example, someone watches, like, whatever, a woman watches a lot of anal or a lot of gangbang type of stuff. More than likely, typically, it's like, this is a fantasy type thing.
Yeah.
It's not so much they want to do it. It's more like, ooh, I'm getting these feelings because this is novelty. This is something like new. It might be that this is the first beginning of that, you know, kink being developed or blooming out of that. But it takes their, like, you know, their consciousness, their awareness to basically go down that path. But that first, like, oh, that's nice, there's rope, I love rope. Oh, that's nice, there's, like, you know, candles and wax, I like that. But the kink BDSM stuff, like I said at the beginning, you can dip your toe in it, but if you want to do more, yeah, you'll just dip more and more and more and more. And the first steps are always like, yeah, ooh, I like this, what is this? Ooh, I feel good, let me watch more, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like the theory that, like, women, like straight women, like watching lesbian porn because it appeals to them in the way they like to be pleasured, as opposed to like straight porn, which is often very aggressive and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that they're all lesbians or that they have lesbian fantasies, but they just, you know, they like watching it.
Yeah.
No, my partners all were much freakier than me.
What? What?
Well, see, this is the thing. Like, I'm not gonna like stereotype or bias or brush all people's with the thing. But what you said, all my partners, yeah, watch lesbian porn. Most were queer or bi, but some were not, and they loved lesbian porn because of what you said. Oh, this is the female gaze, effectively. This is the focus of what it is. within, the two women, it's one woman and the other. And of course, my partner would, of course, place herself within that scene as one of the women, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's like a man or a woman, it's like, oh, okay, the woman's there as an object to be used. Most women,
Yeah.
I don't think like that. Unless, of course, yes, you have BDSM stuff where there's degradation. There's, even more quote unquote extreme stuff than that, where it is like objectification. But again, this is like between two adults consenting. But within the sort of porn thing that you suggested about lesbian porn, yeah, I heard that too, 100%. And also for some of my partners, I think this is just all women. They're just much freakier than men, much more intelligent, EQ, that sort of stuff, much more authentic and like in tune with themselves. Des Wayne, I know he's in tune. That's why I like talking to him. No, dude, shut up. Dude, you are in tune. That's why I like talking to you. You do have high EQ and IQ, but like we're talking about EQ now. With like women, they're unfortunately in some sense socially conditioned for that. And so me being a man, a straight man, I'm like, oh, thank you, women around me, for being intelligent, high EQ. I cannot imagine having to deal with men in this day and age, especially through Kink.
Oh, let me tell you.
I have stories, like I didn't even like engage with men, but God, I have stories through the women, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, preach.
Yeah.
Before we get into like learning more about you said a word, and I saw like an absence in behind Dez's eyes. So I want to know, do you know what degradation means?
Oh, he said, I didn't even know he said that.
Because you as I said, you look blank.
No, I was blank because while he was talking, I was like, when people talk, I like to give scenarios of my life where I'm like, oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so
yeah. That's what I was doing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I seen you look at me a certain way from the corner of my eye. And that's why I knew.
Because in my head, I'm like, this man don't know what that word
No, I still don't. But,
You know what the word degrade means.
Yeah.
It means degrading.
Oh,
like degradation is an act of.
Oh, okay.
degrading.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Which is good because like maybe people watching don't know as well.
Hey, look at us go.
All right, Saintless, let's get into it. So you mentioned that you were into domination. So how long have you been into domination, and like what initially got you interested in BDSM?
Like I said before, women are freakier. So it was a partner some years ago, maybe like 10 something odd years ago, maybe less. She like the thing is, I think most people, men and women, do have desires, do have quote unquote shadows within them that they might show to people that they trust. So after a little while, she told me, hey, I like this. And the first thing that she did say that she liked was being tied up. So I recall, this was a while back, but I recall maybe we purchased like a 30-foot rope. So this was way too long.
30 feet, yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing. But it was fun. The whole point of like kink and BDSM really at baseline, it's like adult play, it's adult fun.
Yeah.
So we did that. And we did many other things. So this is my sort of beginning in it through her. And it was an exploration, even though she was in it for like a little bit more than me. We sort of like coalesced and came together, learned from each other. I really did a lot of research because as the quote unquote Dom, I don't like saying Dom, it's a thing, but I'll say lead. As the lead, because of this sort of role play thing, typically it is role play. We create this sort of like play, so to speak, the universe. But once that universe is constructed by I and her, or I and they, it's like, oh, I need to constrain the universe. I need to make sure that it's bound as the quote unquote Dom or lead. And that is my, role or duty in this, at least for most of the role play, at least for most of the kink type stuff that I do. As a Dom, as a lead, it's like, not so much I can't lose control, but subspace is what not so much I'm after, but what, I don't want to say this, but I'll say it because I can't find anything else to say, what it's all about. But with like lead or doming, I have to be careful from like that letting go because it's a different space. So I lead, I dom from that space, but it is more psychological, I will suggest. But there is, of course, ragdolling because it's fairly easy to, ragdoll women if they're into it. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I have a question. Sorry. Are you driving?
Allegedly, I'm in VR. I'm not sure what the sort of like protocols are, but I'm VR driving. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you, I don't know, you don't have to answer this. Like, are you like a tall guy? Like, are you? Because you're talking about ragdolling.
5'9". Oh no, I'm like 5'9". I'm a vegetarian. I do yoga, so I don't have.
You said I do yoga. What?
I don't have no, I don't have Des Wayne strength. Like I work with him. Like that dude is like, yeah. No, I don't have that strength.
All right,
like,
stop gassing him up. Des Wayne doesn't have Des Wayne strength. I don't know what you're saying.
It's funny because at work, people will see me move stuff and they're just like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Guys, please stop. You don't know my head. Stop."
You see what you did, Saintless? You're gassing him up now.
I mean, the truth is the truth. Come on now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you said the rope, the tying up with the 30-foot rope. Yeah, you said that was your first the first act of leading or doming that you tried, right?
Yes.
Okay, so since you said it's been maybe about a decade now that you've been into this and in the community, so would you say that you like, what are some of the specific kinks that you have now? Like, what are things that you feel like you gravitate towards now?
Before I tell you the kings and desires, and I want all of yours as well, but I will say I don't like the scene when people say like, "Oh, are you in the scene?" I'm not. Like, I don't go to the munches. I don't like go to these sort of like FetLife stuff.
What are
like,
wait? What are the munches?
Sorry. The munches are like, so a munch is like a lunch brunch sort of setting where groups of people who are kinky, single, coupled, usually between say 25 or 30 to like 55, and you just come together and you talk. Sometimes maybe you find someone that you resonate with, you grab their number, and then you meet up like later on, or maybe even over there. But it's like
someone who's not in the community. I sure know a lot.
No, dude, I know. I research like with everything, and this is what I'll say. This can be dangerous. Like I will go back to the kink and desires, but it can be dangerous because even with the rope, and even my, I think, third or fourth partner really was into rope. So this was like 4 or 5 years after, and I was a little bit better. But when she was describing her experiences prior, and she was like, I loved it. She was like discussing her breasts being like blue and purple.
Oh my
and the
God.
thing is, this is the thing. I've done that to women who love the color, who love the sort of, they're masochists, right? They love it all. I'm not a sadist, but in sort of negotiation with a woman, with a partner, with an intimate partner who I trust, who trusts me, I can do that because we would converse a lot. But with her, she was dangerous. I was like, no, you cannot do it this way, where you're literally tying, and even if it's satin rope, tying it around your breast, basically making them into torpedoes. You're like basically cutting off blood circulation. There needs to be research. There needs to be sort of data, really.
Yeah.
You have to be a scientist in this sort of thing. So we discussed it, and she understood, and we had fun afterwards. But in terms of like desires and kinks, I'm a fairly open guy, so I'll say this. I've done water play, but I never wanted to. The partner I was with really wanted to, and we discussed it, and we did water play. And I enjoyed it because she enjoyed it. There are a lot of things I enjoy that I wouldn't do, but there are very basic. I'm a basic bitch in some ways. There are very basic stuff, anal, threesomes, all that sort of stuff that maleness in the West have unfortunately, not unfortunately, but have placed in me, right? But the larger, maybe more weirder kinks, maybe, man, it's weird. I had it all in my head. Weirder. Okay, I've done CNC. I'm not saying I like it, but the sort of like adrenaline stuff, again, with communication. Consensual non consent. That could be anything. Yeah.
Okay, damn.
Because when you said that, I'm about to grab my other phone and start Googling it if you didn't say what it was.
My apologies. Yeah. So it is consensual non consent, and I do quote unquote like it, but it has various levels. So for one time a partner was like, "Hey, I can go like X-rated, right?" Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So she was like, and actually multiple partners were like, "Hey, I want to suck your dick while you're sleeping. Can I do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, please." So they did that. That's part of CNC, right?
Yeah.
Consensual non-consent, because it's like, oh yes, this person is unconscious. I can do whatever I want with them. But this is the point of CNC and a lot of like kink. It's a tension between, oops, this is a taboo, but also, hey, we discussed this. We trust each other.
Yeah.
Let's go and do this. While you have the feeling inside of like, oh my God, this is wrong, you are able to explore it and in a safe way. I think that's what kink and BDSM is at the baseline, that sort of
Yeah.
yin and yang, that tension. So that was one. And that's like one of the lowest ends of the CNC sort of like paradigm. There's like kidnapping. There's blackmail. I role played many times. I'll tell you my I'll tell you my name in most of those role plays. I think it's like Mr. A, or there was another one. I was actually named after a porn star that I kind of, oh, that's the way I do things. I forget his name. I think Mr. Vidal. I think it was like Miss. But the whole point is the role play was like, I'm the boss, secretary. She was perfect. I expect perfection. Then she made a mistake. And now so that's a part of it as well. The CNC, blackmail, all that sort of stuff. So I do like that. Not so much the end of it. I can do it. I don't like that end because I've had bad experiences where some women would take me there without my knowledge. And I told Deswayne about it, where like they were literally in that CNC mode without telling me, without me realizing that. And I had to literally, I'm glad I'm observant. I'm glad I'm aware. I literally had to stop and be like, hey, you're kind of quiet. You're kind of like, and then we discussed it. And then she told me, oh yeah, I was in that space. And I told her that's dangerous. Don't ever go into that space without me present as well. Because this is, I don't want to say this is dangerous, because it's not, but it can cause harm. Psychological, physical, etc. And I could talk about therapists that I know who have talked on this as well.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. Like safety is really huge, because people, I feel like when it comes to kinks and desires, you sometimes want to like push it and like do more and more every time, and it can be dangerous if you're not communicating properly.
Yeah, and actually, it is a term. What you just described, sub frenzy. It could also be dom frenzy. So like basically two adults, hopefully, mature, hopefully. But if they're in that frenzy zone, then they're not being mature. That's called sub frenzy or dom frenzy, where they're like, oh my God, there's so much here, and they're so excited. And in fact, it might actually resonate with them in a particular way because they've always wanted to do this, or maybe it hit on something that they've always been ashamed of or have been shamed into not like approaching. So that frenzy comes from like, oh God, I have the opportunity now, the door is open, but for how long is it open, right? Dom frenzy is, I think, more dangerous. This is why I don't lose control too often. Sub frenzy, less so, but from the perspective of a man who might be an abuser, and we sort of discussed this a bit at the beginning. Unfortunately, so many of my partners, my apologies, all of my partners were abused when doing kink, when engaging in kink or BDSM. And in my naivete, even though I was in my 30s, I was like, wait, what? Isn't only mature, only adult people supposed to do this? And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, I know, but no. And it like broke me a bit. One of the worst stories I had, and this goes to her sub frenzy in a particular way, because she was the most submissive woman I'd ever met. Perhaps the most submissive woman in Canada. She was a professor. Literally, wow. She was an educated, intelligent woman. Professor of like, I'm trying to protect her identity. I'll just say professor of the arts, worked within health sciences with kids, let's say arts, health sciences, and kids.
Okay.
And so we met her on, can I mention an app? Is that okay?
Of course.
Oh, yeah. So I think many people know this. The app is called Field. It's much more of a kinky thing.
Yeah,
but you can I've had like good relationships. It's just a little more honest of like, here's my shadow, here's my kink, accept me or don't, whatever. So we met there, and there was something that she said which made me, ping her effectively, but not in the same ways that other would have pinged her. I pinged her because she said, quote unquote, I'm extremely, extremely submissive. And she put that in quotes. That's a red flag to me. Not only for like, ugh, you cannot be extreme. No, that does not work. Extremes in that sense do not work. But two is a red flag because I knew what other men would see in that. And it's funny because I was right. So we we got together, first date, I usually don't like do one night stands, but like if we talk, text, what have you for like, a few days or even a week plus, yeah, one night stands are okay because I need to like you in order to, fuck you. So we did fuck on the first date. It was great. But like the conversation over the while that we were together, maybe a month plus, was basically me saying, hey, you need to go to therapy. Look, quite literally, like we had a relationship
Wow.
where I was like, Professor, you need to go to therapy. And she was like, yeah, I know. And over again. But it was more like everything that we talked about, she could see, yeah, I know what we're talking about. I know I've seen it for the last, 20 plus years since she was 16. She said she was like a container for all of men's desires. And when she said that, again, my heart broke and I was like,
Yeah.
I was, of course, like slow and managing it. Like it took a month to talk her into, or at least suggest, therapy. And when she finally did, she asked, for a breakup. And I was like, yeah, no, of course, because you can't be around men at this point. And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. And so she's been in therapy for the past couple of years. We talk here and there. She said, hey, if I ever do come out of this space, this sort of, the space that was given to me that isn't mine, that I haven't accepted as my own. Once I do have my own space, yeah, let's, get back together. The one thing, again, what I said at the beginning, she had an ex-husband. So she kept talking, not so much about him, but warning me about him because she was like, you know what? He's a sociopath. He's a rich dude and he's a sociopath. And I'm like,
Hold
do
on.
you think maybe, yeah, please.
Okay. Joe just had to go do something quick. So,
Alright.
yeah.
No worries. Or should I stop? Just.
Ugh. Amazon. Never mind. It wasn't even the actual call. Okay, give it like 10 seconds and then you can continue.
Oh, no worries. All right. How long are your podcasts anyway? Like an hour or so?
About sometimes longer. It depends on how
Okay.
much we want to talk.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I am back. Okay, so you said that you don't describe yourself as in the community, but it seems to me like, would you say that most of the people that you either date or engage with are, or like, do you tend to be the person's first experience with a lead?
Well, no, I'm typically not the first person. So, sometimes potentially, yes. But when I say I'm not in the scene, I'm not like going to the munches. I'm not like on FetLife. I'm not like, there's this day at your Oasis or X or whatever. Like I don't engage because okay, I'll be honest in a particular way. There's a lot of whiteness in that space. And if people don't understand what whiteness is, it isn't me saying, oh, poo-poo white folk. It's more whiteness as a system rather than the people, right? So in terms of that system, who I am as a black man, I'm not saying I'm like, ooh la la, even though I'm a beautiful man. I'm not saying ooh la la.
Gotta
What I'm
gas
saying is
yourself
like, but it's more like, oh, there's this dude here. Oh, I've talked to him. He seems whatever. And then I have to like engage with them in a way where I need to understand whether or not they see me, whether or not I'm fetishized or whether or not they see me. Because every time on those profiles, I'll sometimes write something like, if you don't know, do you know what the black ace tattoos are? What they mean?
The ace.
Yeah, so.
No.
Okay, so the black ace, from the deck of cards, you have the diamond, what have you. So it's the black ace, the spade.
Oh, the spade specifically. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
my
when a
apologies,
white
the spade.
woman loves
Yes.
black men, right?
Yes. So I've seen that, and I've had women connect with me on that, and usually I'll just say something like, you're my 14th reason why, don't talk to me. Right? Like, this is a weird thing, right? It's almost like me putting on something that says, oh, only Asian women, or only, Caribbean women, or it's weird in a particular way, but like it's so weird because again, it comes from whiteness. It comes from this space of like, ooh, BBC, ooh, what is it, like a violent and rough and this and that.
Yeah.
I can be all that, but I'm more than that. White women. This is the issue. I don't want to
I'm not a
be
girl, not yet a woman.
Yeah, Sorry, I do want to go back to that lady, the professor. So she was telling me that she had the sociopathic husband, and she warned me on that first night when I entered her house and we were, doing things. Oh, by the way, sometimes my ex-husband might park his car across the street and just sort of stare in.
Oh my God.
And I was like, sorry.
No thanks.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. But we were together for a month. But like I said, I tried to push her, and I wasn't trying to infantilize her. Very smart woman, like I said, professor, help people. This is the other thing. She was socially conditioned in that sort of empathy, compassion. The thing of it is, I was as well as a sort of an African in a matrilineal sort of like society, but it is egalitarian as opposed to like what we have here in the West, patriarchal. So her norms were like, be quiet, be still, and if there's a man around you, you listen and you allow them to fill you up. And I literally mean that figuratively and like quite literally. Like it was heartbreaking, but she is doing better.
Wow. I think that's honestly, you seem very self-aware, and like I assume that based off of just what Des said about you, but I'm like very, very pleasantly surprised. Like you're amazing. Okay. No, because some people like
I know all his answers. I was like, yes.
Because you can tell that there's thought behind it, and he's
there's
very
actual
considerate
caring,
about his own being and his partners.
More so his partners than his own.
Yeah. I definitely, and like even like the difference between being someone's preference and someone's fetish.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that to someone. When people make certain comments or guys hit on me, and it's just like they say certain things, and I'm like, ugh. Like, and people don't understand. Like Des, this. I don't like, as a Black woman, I don't like when guys are like, chocolate. I like some chocolate. I'm like, ew. Like, no. And like people don't get that. I'm like it's not about like, oh, do you prefer Black women or not? It's just like, I'm not a food. I'm not a like. It's just, I don't know, certain little things like that, and like obviously things that get a lot deeper too. But I definitely understand walking the line. What?
Oh, no, I would just saying thank you for that pleasantly surprised. I just want to go back to that. People, she said she was pleasantly surprised. I'm awesome. I do want to point, you said something about like food. So this is, okay, I'm going to go to another sort of kink.
Okay.
Do you guys know the Vore kink?
I don't. Des?
So the Vore kink.
Is that where people like to add food into the sex stuff?
Well, it is a part of it, yeah, but it's more about the mouth and swallowing things. So it could be, swallowing food.
We spoke about it.
I think that's more of a.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
No, not me and you. I don't mean you spoke about it. We talk about all this nasty stuff.
But I think that food one is more of a feeder type of thing. Like I think it has some, But this is more. So again, it can get into extremes. So I'm going to explain the extreme in terms of like a murder case in Germany.
Okay.
So the extreme of that Vore is basically, swallowing someone whole and potentially like murdering them effectively. So in Germany, two men came together and they were like, hey, I like Vore. Oh, I like Vore. Oh, I like eating. Or I like swallowing. It's more about swallowing, ingesting something whole. If they could be snakes, they would be in a sense. That's the whole point. So one of them was like, hey, I like swallowing. The other man was like, oh, I like being swallowed. And basically they signed a contract. They had video confessions, everything up to snuff. And then man A basically killed man B. And he went to jail like 7-8 years, but he was found to be somewhat sane, if I recall. Like the psychologist was like, no, he was, of course he wasn't, but like, what have you. He was sane, etc. So that's the extreme end, and he only got like 7 or 8 years. The sort of mid end, and my partner at the time, I'll say she was a 51% feminist, a 49% Arab Muslim. I love that ratio. And so she was telling me like, oh, I really love like, swallowing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, baby, I love being swallowed too. I want to swallow you as well. But she was like, no, I really like it. But I'm not like that, extreme end, because she understood it. And so we had fun with it. But me being, me and wanting research and data, I talked to her more because the whole point is like understanding. The more you understand about who you are, about your intimate partner, the better the pleasure is, the deeper the pleasure is, the more intimate and maybe even the more orgasmic feeling, the more euphoric feeling you have. Like I've had incredible sex for the deepness of the intimacy. And so we were talking about this, the deepening, and we were discussing, I think we were together for like a year or 2 years, but it took like 6 months to really unpack this. And when we did, she was like, you know what? I think it's like something from my childhood. I'm like, yeah, probably, yeah. All these sexual kinks and desires, my apologies, not all, but many do come from potentially trauma. And it's not trauma like, oh, trauma is bad. Like if I pinch myself, that in a sense is trauma, right? It's just a response from something we might not understand, that our conscious mind maybe dug into our subconscious mind, that later on our subconscious mind was working on and was like, hey, you had an issue with this. Here's how you explore it. And for her issue, quote unquote, came from her loving Jaws, the film, and being terrified of the title cover. If people recall, Jaws title cover is literally this huge shark, like almost as wide as the ocean, open maw, wide open. And when she looked at that, she loved the film, but she was terrified of it. And yet that terrifying feeling was like lensed through her life and experience into adulthood as something that she found pleasure in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I feel like that's the
awesome.
case a lot of the time, not specifically with Jaws, but just with like something that is kind of like embedded in your mind, and not even necessarily in a sexual way, but like as you mature and grow up, it manifests in different ways.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you, is there a particular like role play scenario or a kink or anything that you like but you don't get to do very often?
So I'll go
That
back
laugh
to the
says
basic.
yes.
Why not? So I'll go back to the basic answer. So I've had like 4 or 5 opportunities to have threesomes, but each single time I had a gut feeling that it would not have worked out, because the whole point of a threesome is, oh, there's 3 people, everyone should have fun, everyone should feel good, but the issue is there are 2 people there that are much more intimate, much more in their safe space, much more in their safe time, much more everything, and then you introduce a third. Oh baby, like what the heck? The issue was the first time I was ever, given this opportunity, it was like, oh, cool, yay. But I had like an inkling. This is almost like, I don't want to say it, but almost like a test. Almost
exactly, a setup.
Yeah, I don't want to say a setup.
You're trying to see how I'm going to act, huh? You want to see if I'm going to kiss her in the mouth.
But see, this is the thing. If we discuss this, we could easily create boundaries. Okay, no kissing, no this, no that, and I would have followed it to the T. But like again, in the first sort of like minutes and hours of the conversation, it just gave me a bad type of feeling. And in fact, one of those first times, I sabotaged it subconsciously. So she asked me like, "Hey, do you know someone? Do you know anyone?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I know someone, a friend who does it." Once asked me if I wanted to, and I was like, oh, it's not my thing for the moment, and like I don't want to ruin our friendship, blah blah blah. So I was like, oh, I know a friend, if you know someone. She's like, no, I don't know anyone. I'm like, okay, cool, I have a friend. So I called her up, quite literally, like I was like 15 meters away from my girlfriend at the time, but there was like a building between us. And I think she was just looking at me talking on the phone, and on the phone I was like, hey, I'll just say her nickname, hey Miku. Basically, remember back then, blah, blah, blah. So, my partner and I want to go through a threesome, and I thought of you, and you've done it before. So, you're probably a safe person. I like you as a friend, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do this? Oh, she's like, yeah. And then I said something which my partner didn't say, but I misconstrued. And I said, oh, she also wants to record it. And this is what she said. Oh, you know what? Well, see, this is the thing. She said, you know what? I'm kind of not into that. I'll think about it, but it's probably no. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. When I went back to my partner, I said, oh, she said no to the recording. And my partner was like confused. She's like, wait, what recording? I was like, you were talking about recording. And she was like, no, I said, I just want to watch. Like she wanted a part of it to be her just like her in a couch just watching. Yeah. And I construed that as like, oh, she wants to record. So I literally sabotaged it in a particular way because, again, I didn't feel as if it was going to go down a good line. That was only one of the times. The last time it was more like emotional thing where it was way too emotional of a thing for, I don't want to say for her alone, but much more so her. But because again, I'm aware, I'm like, yeah, no, of course I'm feeling this as well. I don't want you to be hurt. So
Yeah.
we don't have to do it. And we tried 2 or 3 times really. And that's with one partner. But so in essence, maybe 7 or 8 times, I was like, you know what? It's not really the right time. The thing of it is, could I have pushed it? Could I have been like, yeah, let's do this? Cause you know what? Nacho Vidal gets to do it. Why not me? The whole point is like, you do it in safety, you do it in authenticity, you do it with this one specific thing, my apology, radical vulnerability. And I will say this, kink necessitates loving kindness. Kink necessitates that you are a human being first and a fantasy last.
Yeah.
I love that. That was really well put. Yeah.
I'm very well put, apart from like my Buddha belly. But apart from that, yes, I'm very well put.
So do you tend to have like one partner at a time, like you're in a relationship with this person, or do you find yourself like with like multiple partners where you're the lead?
I guess now I'm not partnered. I guess I'm in a solo poly type of situation, or just like date around. Well, solo poly just means, oh, you're dating around, but with more honesty, I guess. I mean, that's what we used to do in the 90s and 2000s. We date around. Now it's just called solo poly, and we just discuss it a bit more. We're a bit more open, which I don't mind. So I'm doing that now. Have I ever been in a situation where I've had like multiple partners? Yes, not as many as others that I know of. I don't know how they do it. The time, yeah, you're laughing because it's you, Desiree. It's you. But me, I think maybe what, I don't know. I think the most people I might have been partnered with at one time is 3 or 4. And I think maybe that's my max for just the duties and responsibilities I have. And that actually does help me in my sort of dom lead role playing, where the duties and responsibilities I have in my life, even as caregiving, I'm a caregiver, that provides a lot of stuff that like is baselined as a thing that you need for being a lead or for being a dom in that sort of situation.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention like being a caregiver and stuff, because I wanted to ask you, do you feel like your dominance bleeds into other aspects of your life, like your job or how you interact with partners and people outside of the bedroom?
Um, so okay, I'll tell you a little more about my life, and then maybe you'll understand what I mean about this.
Okay.
I came when I came here. I came here 7, refugee, 9 became a Canadian citizen, and basically my entire life is questioning the status quo. I'm an ex-Muslim, currently a Buddhist, and I practice a particular African tradition. All of these sort of traditions, even Islam, which I left, and other things that I practice, were all about basically becoming more in tune with the body, becoming more in tune with the mind, becoming more in tune with the heart. And through Buddhism, they don't make a distinction between, say, the mind and the heart. They say heart mind. So for that meditation for however many years, that gave me a lot of, I don't want to say power, but I will say power, because power is capital P. It's something. Power of love, your power of, force, power of observation or authentic, this sort of power. There's certain powers. There's also control. And for me, there's a distinction between control and power. Power is inherent and everyone has it. People who desire control are ceding power away from the thing that they have. They're saying, oh, I don't want this power, which is inherent, which asks a lot of you. You have to develop power. Control is easy. Oh, you have money, you have control. Oh, you're a man and like there's a 5-foot woman and you're 6'5", you have control, right? There's a sort of like basic knowing of like, what is control here? With kink, it's all about the sort of balance of power, control, the tensions between, and who leads and who follows. But really, sometimes I would say the sub is the lead, because it's her that I know. I don't say that any longer, because I had a conversation with one sub where we discussed it. I'm like, yeah, she was right about like, no, it's a partnership. There's no one person leads, one person. No, it's a partnership 50-50 within the universe of the role play. Maybe the lead leads, but that's still through the sub sort of permission
Yeah.
and say all that sort of stuff. So with the Buddhist stuff, I gained a lot of perspective, a lot of perspicacity, a lot of like EQ, really. I had that already, like I said, from an African culture that's much more matrilineal, but Islam and let's just say 500 years of colonization in Africa did a number on my country and other countries. So I did have issues. But over time, I realized, no, this is power. And it did lead me into being a pretty good lead, being someone that hasn't harmed, knock on wood, hasn't harmed anyone. Because I do very much do these postmortems, pre-mortems. I don't know, I forget what the term is. But like we discuss, we have the aftercare discussion. And hell, even one of those role plays. Like I was so quote unquote in my power in the role in that lead dom that within 15 minutes she was like, no, stop, red flag,
SOS,
red stop,
SOS.
SOS, and we hadn't even taken anything off. I was still in my suit. She was still in her, pencil skirt, because she was the, secretary. I was the, Mr. A. How dare you? You forgot an I in this contract, and now I lost $250 million. Sit down, write it all again, and do it 10 times. Like it was that sort of thing. So within 15 minutes, she was like, "Oh, I can't do this. This is too much," because she was feeling it a bit too much. She was feeling that novelty of like, oh God, I'm scared. I can't do this now, even though she liked it because we had to discuss it. You have to. So in that aftercare, when we were on the couch discussing it, it was like, yeah, I liked it, but it was, I think, a little too much. I'm like, yeah, no, of course, no worries. I like that you did that. I like that you said something because you trusted me enough for me to stop. Right? For some women, they don't say anything because sometimes they don't want to go down the path where if they, and this is not all women, of course, but for some, if they go down the path where they say no and their partner says, I'm not going to listen, that's a terrible feeling.
That's
like,
terrifying.
this is so, So for some women, they might like the whole, 4 Fs, flight, fight, fawn, and freeze. And for some, they freeze. And going back to one of the beginning conversations about one of my partners where we did CNC and she did it alone in one of our engagements. We were just having goofy sex, really. I'm a goofy man. I love goofy sex. We laugh. We do all this sort of thing. And then we also do the rough stuff. It's all over the place. Yeah. So I thought we were in our goofy sex time and space, but I looked down and she was so quiet. She was like in that freeze position. And I looked at her face and it looked very familiar. So that's why I asked, oh, what's happening? And then that's what she told me, like, oh yeah, I was just imagining you as this person and I was imagining me as that person. And in fact, there was another addition to that, which I didn't say, but I'll say anyway, because it happened many other times with other partners, the age play dynamic. Mm-hmm. They always bring me into it, which is interesting, but the age play dynamic with that particular person in that state, I was just like, no, we need to talk about this. And we talked for like 45 minutes on the bed, just like, hugging each other, just eating, what have you. And I think she got it at the end of it, but for like 35 minutes, it was like trying to pull teeth as to like, why this is wrong, right? But it was fun. No. But you know why this is wrong, right? But like nothing happened. But you know why, it kept going and going. And finally she got it. But I don't want to suggest that like this happens all the time, or like all these women I'm with are like, oh my God, that one submissive woman, I'm like a savior, martyrs kind of thing, jihad kind of thing. No, that's not me. It's just sometimes I'm like, oh God, I have to like, ping her just to like be like, hey, I've been in this quote unquote scene. This is a red flag. And sometimes I just ping and send the message and they'll ping back and say, oh, thank you so much. That's nice of you. I'm like, yeah, be careful. And then that's it. With that other woman I was talking about, the professor, she was just very smart, very lovely, very everything. So yeah, we dated for a little while, but like, it was like, oh yeah, this extreme submissive stuff, it's not good. But, so going back to the power thing, yeah, it very much helps with the leading and the doming, and meditation helps. And in fact, I do write I'm a writer. That's what I think I told you that. Yeah. You're a writer too. So I write novels, poetry, etc. And also write like, sort of advice or suggestions on these BDSM forums. And one dude was asking, hey, I have a question. I'm a brat, quote unquote tamer. I have a brat. She wants this and that. How do I engage with a brat? Because I don't think I can like be strong with her because she pushes my buttons. And I have it here somewhere on my phone. I can like read it later, or like I'll just give you the sort of like rundown. I told him basically, dude, learn poetry, learn how to like, write, learn, your tongue's ability, go to a library, read a lot, read a lot, read a lot, and then engage in like thesauruses and like dictionaries and know how to speak. Because the first thing, and this was very specific to a brat, the first thing that a brat will do is try to destroy your ego with her words or their words or his words. You have to, as the quote unquote dom or lead, have to be able to engage verbally first and foremost with a brat. Not all brats are like that, but typically with me, it's like wordplay stuff. And so usually brats engage with me in that. And that's my sort of selection bias. But like brats, for me at least, typically are that. So I told him, hey, you gotta have a poet's tongue. It rests well in the heart and also other parts of the body. So have a poet's tongue. Make sure that she feels small. And I'm not saying denigrate her or make her feel like she's not human. No, no. Make her feel small, that she so wants to come into your, embrace and feel small. Yeah. A brat is basically a feminist. That's what I wrote. Like all women, I hope, are feminists, but I said very specifically, a brat is there to destroy your goddamn patriarchal ego, your goddamn male dominance ego. And if they do, well, you're not the person that they wanted. But if they don't, and you can give it back, verb by verb, adjective by adjective. Like I literally once, that Arab, Muslim, woman I was talking about, the Vore, she was a brat. So I once I was invited to her home, and right in the foyer, she started up poking, quote unquote, poking me. And I basically just turned her around. I basically put my body against the wall there next to the door. And in fact, it was open. So it was like maybe evening. People could still see it if they were walking their dogs. And I said, hey, do you want me to spray this wall with your cream? Because I will. Now let's go eat. And she's like, yes. Okay, let's go. And then that was it. Like, that was it, right? This is the thing. So I told
I'm laughing because Joe's at a loss for words.
My face, I'm like, damn, okay.
So this is the thing. So I told him you have to like have this poet's tongue. And then on top of that, I told him like ragdolling is easy. Like, yeah, men, on average, whatever, are stronger. But that's so easy. Like, but if you can, move her with your mind, move her with like a finger, move her with like a literal eyebrow glance where she's like poking you from like 10 feet away, and you look at her and you're like, and then she's like, sorry. Yeah. Or like, oh, yeah, that is quote unquote power.
Yeah.
But that is negotiated between her and I. And in fact, it's not me taking her power. It's her relinquishing it in a particular way. Yeah. And then me 100%. Relinquishing a part of my power to her, because it's a yin yang ratio. It's never, oh, you have 100, I have 100. No, in totality, we have 100, and I might be 80% yang because I'm the force of it all, and you might be 20% yin because you're the static part. But if you say, for example, you're a brat, it might be I'm 60 and you're 40. That works. And then maybe over time, especially say, for example, a date night, that ratio could go from a 60-40 to 70-30 to 80-20 to 90-10 to even 98-2, right? Yeah. That brat, however much you're able to make her feel small, however much you're able, one, to respect her feminism, respect her mind, respect the fact she's not an object, even though at some point she may want you to take her as one, but not see her as one. Yeah, that can happen, but it takes a while, and young men especially don't know how to be patient and sort of like walk that path correctly and safely.
Do you ever see yourself, or would you ever consider trying a more submissive or even like a more of like a verse role?
Oh, I have. I'm like, it's funny. I was about to say I'm super straight, but I recall like 3 years ago, there was a trend where like white supremacists were saying that sort of crap because they were being like anti-trans and anti-gay. And I was like, crap, you little shits. But no, I'm like straight, right? And I'm very like a dom lead type of thing. I cannot get into submissive mode. It's a sort of block. I can't do it, but I can be 50-50, very balanced. So I can be cuffed and I can enjoy it. I can be, I have thing over my eye. I can enjoy it. I've been in positions for like 30 minutes where I don't know what's happening. I'm
Okay.
blindfolded. I have a cuff behind me, and like she'll touch me, and maybe she'll suck my dick at some point. Maybe she'll do something else in the beehive, like all this sort of stuff. And it's like, oh, this is nice. But it's never me in a mode where I'm submissive. It's me in a mode where I'm exploratory, maybe even goofy, maybe even playful, maybe even still doming her, basically saying, you do realize, like, in any case, all that can still happen, but I've never been in a submissive mode, even when cuffed, even when
Do
blindfolded,
you,
even with, yeah, please go.
do you feel like that's because you're an honest man? Like a man like me who has done things to people and have lied to people. I don't trust people tying me up, blindfolding me, not one bit. So you're saying this and I'm closing my eyes like, nope, that's my biggest fear. You are not tying me up. You're not blindfolding me. I've seen one too many movies where a woman have like handcuffed men and turned them on and be like, you remember that time that you did this? Whoosh, whoosh. I'm like, nope, not me. Not I, no way. Look, they go on live. Look at him, everybody. Look at him now. I can't. My brain, I can't. When I say I can't, like, a girl has tried to, like, tie my hands together, and I tried to let her, but the second that I felt like, oh, this is really happening, my body naturally just like broke out of it. Like I don't know what to tell you. You're not doing that. Not me. I'm sorry. Nope.
No, no, that's okay. Because again, I like talking about this sort of stuff in ratios, right? I don't say like I'm this or that. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm typically 60+%, lead. I don't bend into like the submissive stuff, but I can play around there because I can see the boundary, even if I don't like cross it. With you, it's more like, you know what? I don't even want to cross the boundary. I don't even want to
I don't
have
even
a
want to
mesh.
tiptoe.
Yeah, I don't want to mesh there even. Like, just have like a goddamn brick wall and then irradiate it with like nuclear material so that no one can go by it unless
Absolutely.
yeah. And I get that. Like, everyone's preference is their own preference. I'll say for like some things where I thought I was like, you know what, this is what I want. Or I thought, oh, this is not what I want. And then all of a sudden, some years later, it's like the opposite. So, for example, like I used to want to have kids. I used to, want to be married. These were like huge things for me up to like maybe 18 to like 20 something. And then I thought, why do I think this way? Oh, right. This is my social conditioning. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
firstborn, duty bound son of an African Muslim patriarchal type of system and family. Like, it is my seed
Yeah.
that is the most important, that carries on the will of my peoples. And I will say my people's will should be spread out into the universe. Like, we have great seed. The whole point is like, the whole point is like that social conditioning created a sort of like rot in my life that like, or a stagnation that I had to observe. That I was lucky enough at like 19 to discover Buddhism, and it helped me, and Taoism, and it helped me really understand, there are these stories, and this is what just meditation is. Meditation is basically observation of, your thoughts, your feelings, various mental formations, and not binding yourself to them because you realize, oh, that is that, and I am this.
Mm-hmm.
But then you ask yourself, what is this? And then you meditate on that and you gain power. This is just a simple realization. And what happens at the end of it, the consequence of all this is the sloughing off of these stupid stories we're all socially conditioned with, right? Like, we're all here black. How much of the shit stories of the 500 years are we always inundated with wherever we go? Even today, waiting at Service Ontario. Just a bunch of stuff where I'm like, is this what's happening, or am I being a little too biased here? And the thing is, sometimes I think I am being too biased for like whatever, anti-black behavior I see, microaggression I see. But sometimes it's just out there, especially with boomer men, with all
Mm-hmm.
due respect to boomer men. But the stories, this is what we need to slough off. And then maybe you, Deswayne, and maybe even me for some things, it's like, oh, you know what? This was a story. I was shackled by it. I will, for the next 3 years or whatever, really think on this, self-reflect and pray on it. And I'll just end on like what prayer means, because this goes to like, again, how things change over time, the social conditionings, the stories we tell each other. I'm
Yeah.
a writer and I love etymology and the meaning of words. So prayer, I think around the 13th century was changed to mean to beg, or to supplicate to a god. And basically, of course, like I don't believe, basically it was like, oh, the church in between, right? So it was more about power, or rather ceding the power that people had to the control of all the Roman Catholic Church or whatever. And all the various religions do it. The prayer, where it came from 3,500 years ago, used to mean to meditate. It used to mean to self-reflect. It used to mean, hey, you pulled, little Betty's hair, and little Timmy, go into the corner and pray. But what they were saying is, go self-reflect and ask yourself, why did you produce this harmony into the world? Self-reflect and understand that you need to now produce harmony, acknowledge the mistake, and make sure you don't do it again, and then offer up some sort of recompense to that issue. Mm-hmm. For all of that, it gives me a good baseline for how I, lead in these role plays, lead in these relationships. And I don't mean like alpha lead, this alpha red pill bullshit. It's so stupid. But lead in the way where, like, again, this is my own selection bias. Every single relationship I've had, and again, I'm not guiding it towards this. It just happens where sometimes the partner will say, hey, you take control of all the finances, including mine. And I'm like, no, thank you. What? This is not that relationship. This is not that deep sort of even slave master type of relationship that some people have asked me to do, where I'm like the master. And it was actually a white woman. She was like, oh, I'll be the slave. I was like, interesting. She gave me a book, and it was interesting. In any case, we didn't do anything. I was not about that, but she gave me a book, and it was interesting. The woman I was with, sorry, I kind of forgot myself when I went to that slave master. So I was like, oh God, I met her like 5 years ago during COVID. But before that, what was I talking about? It was a type of relationship, lead. So it just naturally happens with a ratio, because they trust me potentially, even though they're, intersectional feminists, even though, they're like the wherewithal, they're even much more educated than I am, intelligent, EQ, all that sort of stuff. It just happens where because potentially I am stable in the sense of I'm authentic, I am me. You can't change me, but you can negotiate me in particular ways. But I do have convictions and principles. Once they understand that and they have their own principles and convictions, if it melds, and it has 100% of the time with all my relationships, they just do more submissive stuff while still just being human beings. So like that one woman, like I said, oh, please, all my finances. No, thank you. For others, it was for example, for one, I just opened their door. It's very chivalrous type of patriarchal BS. But it was oh, she liked it. I don't mind doing it. And that was for only one. But usually it was the middle path for most of these women, where most of the time, yes, within the sexual and sensual intimate spaces, they were much, much more submissive. But even in real life and doing things, they would expect me to lead. Hey, date night, this, and I didn't mind. Like I said, caregiving. I'm how to describe myself within the two generations of my family. I'm in between. I'm an exennial, and I'm kind of the lead of the second generation and third, and I'm the baby of the first. But even within being the baby of the first, they see me as a sort of quote unquote patriarch that is doing a lot for the family, and therefore deserve some respect or some quote unquote bossness, where some of them do call me. So from that comes me. Yes, I have that. I showcase that. Some people come into my space, aura, or vibe, and they're like, oh, I like this warm feeling. And I get that. And the caregiving gives me a better baseline, where all of this leading, doming stuff comes from a place of kindness, comes from a place of understanding. Because when I'm caregiving and I'm talking to those doctors, I understand I have to dom them, because I understand that in terms of how they're going to treat me, but very specifically the person that I'm with, who dresses very immigrant-like, very Muslim-like, she's a black woman, all that sort of stuff. All these factors, very easy to note within the medical sciences, there's a lot of bigotry. And they're literally taught this as well. And there was only one doctor who ever said, thank you for letting me know, because you're right. Every other doctor that I said this to, they were just wide-eyed and being yeah. But there was only one doctor that was yeah, you are right. So that doming, leading from caregiving, from kindness, leads into the relationships, which do just possess themselves more of where I am more the lead, Again, I'm not trying to negotiate that. And then with the caregiving leading to other things, whether the sexual intimate stuff, and like I said, the relationship, and it helps out. I think the caregiving did, and as well the Buddhist path and the African path, which both of them are all about engaging in power because it's been taken away from you by society, by patriarchy, by bigotry, by supremacy of all kinds, by everything in this world that tries to denigrate us. So those two paths are like psychological skewering that's literally trying to make you you. Just a just a basic human being, and that's what's being taken from us. And I'll end on this, where with BDSM and kink, I'll ask this to both of you: do you think it would be different if BDSM and kink existed under a matriarchal or matrilineal, or just saying an egalitarian type of society? Would kink or BDSM even exist within that sort of a society, do you think?
Ooh, I want to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would exist probably in a different way, but I would think so, don't you?
I'm smiling because that's what I was going to say. I was going to say yeah, but it would be considered something else. Like,
like
it's kind of like when people were finding out that more and more people actually have sex with animals. Bestiality, right?
I'm like, where are you going with this?
The more that people find out that people really do these things and people are okay with it, if the world decided that was okay, then something else would be the new it. It would always be something.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah. So right now, I think when it comes to BDSM and kink, because it's still not talked about the way we're talking about it now. Like, before talking to Saintless at work and stuff, like it's just like BDSM is this crazy thing. Like, whoa, you guys are sick. But then because all the porn I watch is sick. And that's what we base a lot of the things off of, the things that we see or that we kind of heard about, not in a right way. But then when you hear about it in the right way, you're like, oh, okay, it's not so bad when it's safe and understanding. So when you understand that part of it, it's like, yeah, maybe people should talk about it more often. Because the same thing he was saying earlier with like young men who feel like, oh yeah, this girl likes to be choked, so I'm a choker during sex. Whoa, let's figure out why she likes to be choked. Let's figure out, do you even know how to choke her properly, like you bring up all the time? You can't just choke somebody now. So
attempted at least.
So certain things like that, like as young men, if you're really taught how to understand certain things, then it would be more enjoyable for everybody. But to them, it's just like, yeah, I choked this bitch out. You want me to choke you? I'm gonna fucking choke you.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think my mindset was thinking like if our society was structured completely differently. Like, for instance, like if it was a wonderful utopia of just women in society.
No, you guys would be kinkier.
I still think it would exist. It would just be different.
You guys would be kinkier.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Because you guys will feel safer around each other.
Yeah.
Even like for sure there'll be.
Even if it was all like, I just think regardless, I think it would exist.
Yeah,
sure.
it would still exist, but just a different title.
Not even just a title, just like how it is. Like, you know what I mean? I think like there's so many different factors.
Nah, with women, you guys got this.
I mean,
I agree with both of you. Like, yeah, of course, it probably would still exist because, sex is such a big part of our psyche. So it would express itself in a particular way, and potentially there would be, though so there's someone on YouTube I follow. I like following her because she's very data driven. I think I gave her the name once, Deswayne Evie Lupine or something.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting person, but like I like her for the data stuff. And I think she was going through some of the data, and like she suggested that, oh, you know what? There aren't that many people that actually do engage in kink or BDSM in the ways that potentially I or her do. But like a lot of people, like, slight smacks, a little bit of like, slap to the face, or, haha, I'm choking you, but not really squeezing.
Yeah.
But like the other stuff, that's like, I forget what the number was, less than 5%, if not 10%, if I recall, but it was very low. And for that, I studied like history and even power dynamics, that actually within like history and politics and religion in university. And during that time, I learned like, oh, the way that life was, again, it was sort of matrilineal, matriarchal, egalitarian, much more so for most of history than patriarchal, which was just the last 3,500 years, at least within the West. The women back then pick the men, and sometimes they would have, three, four, five different, like, it was a very different type of family unit. It was very different family unit till up to the 1900s or mid 1900s, really. Till then it was very multi-generational. And then on top of that, again, a long while back but not too long ago, women had like four or five. They had more control over their sexual, just sexual everything, right? Unlike now, they had way more control, such that, oh, there would be, yeah, men that like would also have maybe potentially a plethora of women, but also they would be a part of another unit where they would be one of the husbands, right? This is one of the ways that a kinky society, if it would continue to be egalitarian, might, come out in a different way today, where like, oh yeah, it is the women who are potentially the doms in a particular way, but they're still subbing. And but also what you were saying about, oh, if it's all women, yeah, I'd just be kinkier. And I would love to be in that society, because I like kink. Yeah.
So is it safe to say that you see yourself in the role of a lead, just kind of like being a part of your life forever? Like, you don't see like an end to it or anything like that, right?
I never say anything like that, because with like what Buddhism and like really just what life teaches you, because forget Buddhism, forget it all you have to do is experience life. What comes up goes down. 2 steps forward, 4 steps back, sometimes 5 steps forward, maybe 1 step back. With even my sense of like, oh, I never want to get married, don't want kids, I will probably want relationships, but not like I've had years long relationships, but I don't want to like have that thing. But if I'm 50, maybe I might. Like, some of my family know some of my stuff, especially in regards to religion and sorry, religion, yeah, kids and marriage. And some of them will try to be like, hey, you know what? Aren't you afraid? I said my name, by the way. Saintless.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. We know. She looked at me.
We clocked it instantly. We got you.
And cut. But they'll be like, oh, hey, Saintless. Aren't you going to be afraid, when you're, dying at the end, and maybe you're going to fall and break your hip? That's why I do yoga, by the way. Maybe you're going to fall and break your hip and everything. And I'd be like, you know what? I'm doing some mitigating stuff. I understand what you're saying. But then I would talk back to them as an adult, even though they see me as a child. I'm 41. But of course, they're going to see me as a child, right? Whether it's my parents, my uncles, my cousins who are older than me, whatever it was. And so they'd be like, aren't you going to be afraid? No. Then they're like, but come on, there's going to be someone there. Don't you want kids to take care of you? And sometimes I will say this to them if I trust them a lot. Is that why you had kids? That you're so afraid that like you wanted to, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would tell them like, I understand the fear of it all. I understand even the conditionality of it all, the traditionality of it all. But you cannot expect someone whose preferences is, quote unquote, liberty to shackle themselves to someone for 18 years. And this is what I've said before. I wouldn't mind having kids. They would become genius kids, because that Arab woman that I told you about, that Vore woman, she was also so depressed because she was a master's in education major. And she knew how to create genius kids, but she was so depressed because she was like, oh, the government doesn't listen to us. So this whole thing is like, yeah, of course I can see myself maybe down the line not being a lead, not, or not engaging in kink, let's say, not engaging in BDSM. But it's like, what would happen? Like, would it be like a traumatic type event? Would it be something like I could, mention 100,000 different sort of scenarios, but life is varied. And as far as I know now, it's like, oh, I like it. And this is the thing though. even while I'm on field, even the thing is, I'm authentic regardless of what app I am. I'm like, this is me, take it or leave it. And most women don't take it, which is fine. I want to curate my authenticity to resonate with people, that want to be with me.
Yeah.
So on those other apps, I will still just say the same thing. Cause again, it's our whole package. It's our whole package. And this is, I think, maybe the most important part of it. We shouldn't delineate or differentiate or demarcate or basically like, create some sort of wall between sex and like everything else about life. Sex is life. Life is sex. Where does life come from, right? And the issue is, again, in the West, fuck the West. The Allahu Akbar, I'm kidding. But the whole point is like I can say that because I'm an ex-Muslim. The whole point is, within the West, it's like the patriarchal norm has created such a gut where like young men where even a woman I dated once was like, oh, my two teenage boys are like listening to Andrew Tate. And now I'm thinking, oh, what are they gonna think of sex in the world until maybe 25, maybe 35, maybe 45? Our brains don't stop developing in aggregate, I guess, and on average till like 25, 26. But the thing is, for some people, that could be much, much later. And imagine an adult with all the duties, the responsibilities out there, but they're abusive because, 10, 15 years of Tate stuff or 10, 15 years of like, the red pill guy, Tommy Massimo, whoever he is, I forget his name, 10, 20 years of like the next, alpha bro type. Who's the last one? The Liver King guy. The one after, they're all frauds, because young men are the most emotionally charged creatures on the planet. Young men are the most emotionally fragile creatures on the planet, and young men are the most weak-willed, weak-minded, weak-hearted people on the planet. That's why they're so easily embraced by demagogues like a Trump. But like I said about those like relational, sexual so-called experts, and then they go on to, television or even women what's her name? Eve. She's a redhead. 6 foot tall volleyball player, basically saying all the shit that like misogynistic men say about herself and about other women, and she's not in a relationship. Like, you are everything a man would want, but you're too tall for them. So you're still literally like doing all this sort of shit, this internalized misogyny shit, and that creates, again, sex being bad, kink being bad, BDSM being bad, and then me literally talking to these women and being like, oh, you were abused. Okay, let's take it slow. We're going to communicate all that. So this is the thing. It creates more work for us. Why is it that my partnership with her and her with us, with me, why is there more work? Because of the, rot of the West in terms of its puritanical view of sex. I don't want that. I don't want that separation. I want it to be holistic.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Okay, so if you could give someone listening right now one piece of advice, if they're like, everything that Saintless has said really resonates with me, this is something I want to explore, if you could give them one piece of advice to start out, what would that be?
One piece of
I mean, you've really given a lot of advice the whole time, to be fair. So
I'll maybe a light something as a beacon. If you don't have empathy, if you don't have compassion, like everyone does have it, but like really look, if you cannot muster the level of empathy needed to engage in something this adult or mature, don't do it. And this is me, because again, if a person thinks that they're empathetic and they're not, unfortunately their gauge is like, their measurements are going to be wrong. So it's kind of a weird thing for me. But if you are cognizant, if you're willing to wait 2-3 years before engaging in all this and being very self-reflective, praying on it, as I said, meditating on it, basically looking within, being like, okay, I watch this porn. I like it. Let's say it's like a bondage porn. Okay, I like bondage. Why do I like it? Okay, let me look at my life. Maybe I was, trigger warning, beat as a kid. Maybe this is why I like the sort of like masochism of it all. Like one partner literally told me, oh, I like being spanked because one time when I was spanked when I was a kid, it became pleasurable and I stopped crying, and that's when they stopped hitting me. And that's a protective measure, right?
Yeah.
That's an understanding. So if anything, the most prime advice I could give you, understand yourself. And even if you understand yourself as a sociopath, then at least you understand that. And if you understand that, I don't know, hopefully you'll engage in it in like in a more appropriate way. Cause yeah, you could be a sociopath, but you could still work with that understanding, I guess, but really don't even engage really if you're that. That's an extreme end, right? But for the middle path people where they're like, oh, 2, 3 years, let me look at myself, let me self-reflect. I like this. I don't know why I like this thing, but I know why I like this. And I've like really thought about these 3 things. So you know what? I'll engage in these 3 things. And then on top of that, I'm going to curate and create a profile where like I will attract the people that I will feel safe in by exposing my shadows to, because my profile will like resonate with them. So the whole point, I think, is authenticity that comes from radical vulnerability, that comes from meditation, that comes from you knowing I need to be empathetic, compassionate, balanced, which means equanimous, and sort of be able to engage in this in joy. Because if you're engaging in this in non-joy, why the fuck are you even trying to touch anyone?
Yeah.
Like, why even trying to touch yourself if there is no joy? So joy, all these things that I said, again, authenticity that comes from radical vulnerability, that comes from the meditative aspect, that comes from you wanting to understand yourself, that comes from you knowing I need to do that so that I don't harm anyone, let alone like myself. That's the most important thing. That's sort of like stream of things.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. Yeah, I think self-reflection is I think that's a good piece of starting advice, honestly, and something that people should implement throughout. I do have one. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh no, I just want to make that one point. The sociopath I was talking about the professor's ex-husband.
Yeah,
he was a sociopath, and they did a lot of BDSM stuff. She never told me any of it. Like I wasn't comfortable asking her about it. Like if she would have, she probably would have if she trusted me. We only dated for like about a month or so. But like, yeah, he was a sociopath. He self-reflected in all likelihood because he was a smart man. He owned a company, but he self-reflected and didn't care and abused that beautiful woman. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, see, that's the thing when it comes to engaging with a sociopath, because they might be very self-aware, but like you said, they just often don't care, and it can get very dangerous. I remember when you initially said it, I was like, damn, sociopath, like that's no, because it can be very serious. Yeah. I was just saying, I do have one final question for you, but before I get to that, I want to know, like, Des, is there anything that you wanted to ask him?
No, because most of these stories I already know because we talked about these
fair.
things.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, this last thing is just like
sorry for bothering you, Des Wayne. Like, why even be a part of this show? Get the fuck. I'm kidding.
No, this last thing is a little more lighthearted, fun, and like low key, just my curiosity. Okay, how do I phrase this? Can you, if you feel comfortable, can you give us an example of like how you would walk someone through like a role play scenario?
Didn't he tell you that he would have her come all over the wall? Sorry, the glass?
He was giving us a real life example. I'm saying like do like a mini role play like right now type of thing. Is that something you're comfortable with? Oh, we can't hear him.
Well,
can you ignore? Sorry.
No, I can't.
Oh, Des.
Hello?
Oh, hello. Hi.
Okay.
I'm here now.
Sorry, Des was getting another call. Could you hear us the whole time?
I could hear you guys, yeah.
Oh, okay. We can hear you. Okay.
Okay. I can do that. I might be able to do a like more stream of consciousness. It might falter here and there. I'm a writer. Like I like doing this, and I do this somewhat often because you have to engage in it. It's like, your brain creates grooves in your brain. Your brain creates grooves in your brain, and the more you do something, the more you adapt to it. So let's just say.
Do you want a scenario?
Okay, oh, no, actually, I have one in mind.
Of course you do.
Well, this was like the last one, and I didn't speak on it, but we wrote it down. I was a mechanic. So I'm a mechanic. She's like a single mom, and I'm a pretty nice guy. I don't take advantage of it. I like help people out. I'm like a mechanic. I keep to myself. And she plays again a single mom, and not so much down on her luck, but just like small town type of vibe type of thing. The whole point of these stories is to sort of explore a theme. Typically, right? Sometimes that theme is very easy. Oh, power dynamics, DNS, dominance and submission, CNC, denigration, domination, all the sort of D's, I guess. With this one, it was more about helping her basically bloom into a flower, because she was so like again, the character so insular, so inculcated in like the small townness of it all, that she never experienced anything. So this was a sort of like supernova moment for this character. And so the scene was like basically she comes in because her car's in the garage, and she's wet. Of course, not wet in that way, but it was raining, and she's wet. I get her, and I get her a towel, and we just talk coffee. Basically it's like 1 hour of like talking, basically, because we created a story, and most of it is just like bounded by like bullet points. But we were both like artists, or I don't want to call myself an artist, but I was a writer. She's an artist, and we did it for like an hour, and like afterwards we didn't even engage in anything sexual, but we talked, and we did engage something sexual afterwards away from the role play. But the role play itself, it just managed to be 1 hour of talking, so to speak, and it was still very sensual. And so it was just talking.
So this
talking,
1 hour of
like,
talking was in these roles the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And maybe like, I don't want to say like maybe 1 hour, but like a while, like 35 to 45. Yeah. So talking. And so I'm in that mode of like this mysterious mechanic. And I'd be like, I forget the name. It's like, oh, how's your kid, Laura? And she's like, oh, he's okay. He kind of gets in trouble here and there. And I say, boys will be boys. And then I'll say something like, but I never liked that because my father was a piece of shit. So make sure that you have that boy, treated right of sorts. And then she talks about her husband. And then I talk about maybe one of my, and that sort of thing builds something, right? And towards the end of it, after that hour of talking, there was supposed to be something sensual where she would give me back the towel. She would drop the towel by accident. She'd say, oh, sorry, pick it up because it's like a dirty mechanic
and
store.
not put my dick in her mouth.
No,
Oh.
but that's a good spot to, maybe do so for another time. But it was like she would bend down, and because it was like I guess she was only wearing like a t-shirt, I would be able to see, I guess, in her blouse, and I look, and then she'd blush, I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then it would lead into something, and I'd say, oh, my apologies, and then she's like, no, it's okay, I understand, and then I'd say something like, that sort of thing. But the whole point is the exploration of in that sense, her supernova moment of being free. In that moment, would sub frenzy, or my apologies, not sub frenzy, would subspace be sort of the culmination, the apotheosis, hold on, I know this word, give me a second, apotheosis of it all, that sort of like
I don't know that
union
word.
Well, it's like a divine union type of thing, where like she's supernovaing, orgasming, and being like, yes, like I'm not only just a single mom, I'm not only just a mom, I'm not only just an ex-wife, I'm not only just this, I'm also a goddamn goddess type of thing, right? So I didn't give it like a lot
I'm
of, like,
also an actor.
I have the power. Amen. So like I didn't give much of the verbal stuff because that was like, it's more in the moment.
Yeah.
Because we know who the characters are, but the sort of like stream of what would happen and the themes of like exploration, that would be somewhat what would be set up.
Do you guys ever like break character and just start bursting out laughing?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
I'm a goofy person.
Yeah,
like,
I know. That's why I'm asking, because I'm like, there's no way she could be serious this whole time. There's no way.
Yeah, like the more intimate we are, the more we know each other, the more we can easily fall into these sort of like roles,
and then get back and go back.
Yeah, and even then, sometimes towards the end, we don't role play. Like we stop role playing, and it's kind of like it doesn't go into territory where some like I guess kink BDSM researchers, like legitimate sociologists, like sexologists who study this, who say, oh, for some people towards the end, but this is like, people who have been together 20, 30 years, but people who very much trust each other, excuse me, they may just like have these slave master DS like extreme relationships with almost no safe words, almost none of that it's just so natural because they're so entrusting. But that's like, again, 30, 40 years of this. This is like 0.1% of the better 0.1%, as opposed to like the capitalist fucks. It's that 0.1% of trust and friendship in a relationship like that. But like, again, for the most part, it's like the middle pass, and you role play, and then maybe after a year or two, you just engage in the DS dominance submissive, if we're talking about that, or the sadomasochism yin yang of that, and you find a flow that works for you, that you enter into easily, i.e., we used to negotiate 60-40. Now, after a year or two, we're always at like 80-20, and it's just easier and better, and we fall into it faster, and we can come out of it faster, and then fall back into it faster, and experience it better, and then have better, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Wow, I feel like I've learned so much. Yeah, because like I feel like I definitely had like a bit of knowledge on like this topic, but like actually hearing about someone who engages and just is so knowledgeable, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about all of this, and also the emphasis on certain things. Like I really love what you said about the difference just between like straight up like dominance and leading and power, because I think that is something that it's like, it's obviously something that we know, but like when you say it like that, it's like, yeah,
you're like, yeah, you're right.
Like,
it's very important.
It is. And the balance of power and.
Because I just want to say, the submissive cedes control, but she never cedes power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what these abusive men don't understand.
100%. Yeah. I really, really like that you said that. I think that's very important. Yeah. And it was just a fun topic and a fun episode.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I'm not like a content creator kind of guy. I'm a writer, but like I put some stuff on. Like, can I just like say my
We would absolutely love you to.
So it's either Saintless, SAINTLESS, or Saintless Choir, CHOIR, Saintless Choir. YouTube or TikTok. I have some stuff on TikTok that I like. I'm just basically putting whatever I like. It's fun. I just like fun stuff. Kink is fun. BDSM is fun. And I was going to start talking about BDSM stuff on like that platform as well. So yeah, I might do so. And this has sort of kicked me in the balls in a nice way to start doing that. Yeah.
I've never heard someone describe a kick in the balls as
in a nice way. Crazy.
But you know what? There's a first time for everything.
BDSM, right?
And there you go.
Are you sure you're not a little bit of a masochist? Because a kick in the balls, damn.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to leave you with one story. Okay. So this was, I think, in 2016. This could have been the first woman I engaged in kink or BDSM with, because we talked about it. She was mature. The issue was she was like 21 at the time, because I had gone back to school and we were like partnered up. And she started liking me because she thought I was smart. She was like a sapiosexual, demisexual type of person. So I asked her out, not out. I asked her out on like friend date. She thought I had asked her out.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, please go
Because if a girl's into you, you guys are talking. Did you say a friend date, or do you just say, do you want to go out?
I don't even think I said you want to go out, because we would always go out.
He's probably like, hey, I'm going to Subway. You want to come?
I
think what it was, it wasn't so much like, hey, friend date or this or that. It might have been like, wherever she was in her mind, wherever I was, and however I was saying it, it came together. Maybe I said it in a way where maybe it sounded like that. But
fair
again,
enough.
It was my issue. It was my issue because I had no idea. Like, this is me in my naive sort of early 30s. So I'm like maybe 9 years, maybe 10 years older. I asked my friends who were married, at the time, like Greek, Portuguese, Indian, like men and women, and most were, yeah, no, all of them were like, no, it's okay. And one of the Greek women were like, oh no, my husband is like 13 years older than me, and we have 4 kids, and we have a great marriage. 6 months later, she cheated. He cheated on her with a secretary, 20-year-old. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. with with her, they were like, yeah, no, it's okay. But I never thought it was. The whole not so much I never thought it was. I was just naive and didn't think I could navigate that well enough. So the whole like, oh, half your age plus 7 thing, it worked. But there's all these stupid equations, formula. It worked, but I was like, I don't. My gut feeling, right?
I
That
think it
feeling
also
in
plays
my
a role of like where you are in your life, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm
yeah
sure like being
yeah
in your 40s and dating someone 10 years younger is very different than being in your 30s and
yes.
dating someone 10 years younger.
Exactly. And so I asked her, hey, let's go. Maybe I said something, hey, let's go out. And she thought like, ooh. So she dressed up very nicely. It was just like, anyone watch Annie Hall? Fuck Woody Allen, but there's a title cover of the film where she's like wearing this, I think it's Annie Hall, but think of oh crap. You remember Daddy Warbucks?
Yes.
Okay, remember the adopted daughter, her one-piece dress?
Oh
The red
gosh,
one?
I don't.
Okay, so she was kind of wearing something like that, and it was beautiful. She looked lovely, and then I told her, "Oh wow, you look nice." She put on makeup. She never puts on makeup. I'm stupid. I'm naive. I am so stupid. So all of this time, I'm like, "Okay, where do you want to go?" She's like, "Oh, you pick." We go to a place. We play arcades. We have fun. We like driving, both of us. So we drove around. We talked, and that's when she started drawing something on her on my windshield. And when I looked, I was like, "What is that?" And she's like, "Oh no, that's just a dick going into an ass." So I was like, "Okay, cool." No, again, I'm stupid and naive. This is the dumbest thing. But again, even if I knew what was happening, even though I kind of maybe knew, because it was just too much. Wait, hold on. It's like, wait, this is like click, 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 click. It cannot be this easy. But then on top of that, I still had the uneasiness of the age gap of sorts, right?
Yeah.
So that happened. And then later on, we were discussing BDSM, which was the point of the story, and the kink. And so she was like, "Oh, I'm a masochist. I get, pleasure from pain sometimes, or most of the time," she said.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't understand that. Like, it's just kind of weird. Like, but I can understand it maybe where like, oh, if I broke a bone, my body would like just flood me with endorphins, potentially like oxytocin, all the sort of, good feeling hormones that like subsides the pain." And she's like, yeah, probably. And then we were silent for like 2 minutes. And then she turned to me. I didn't notice her. She pinched me. And immediately after that pinch and that pain, I felt very, very nice. Like it was such a weird experience. It was almost like she was a witch. Like it was, no, I swear to God, because it was like, she pinched me, and usually when a woman pinches me, it's like they're trying to touch me because they like me,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? But like with this pinch, it was like not a regular pinch, because usually it just hurts, and I'm like, God damn it! If you like me, just tell me, and we can go out, kind of thing. But this pinch radiated out into my body in like this really nice afterglow of like an orgasm. I did an orgasm, of course, but that afterglow of an orgasm, that I felt like at a, sort of 30-40%. And I was like, oh, I get it now. And she's like, okay. But like, that was it. That was like a
Your
weird,
turn.
weird experience. But like, that's why I was like, oh, she's a witch. And then also I was very, very stupid and naive, not understanding it at all. The fact that it was a date, at least for her. And, yeah, it was a great night, but, I was a stupid man, I will say.
That's actually hilarious.
Yeah. And sad.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, it's hilarious looking back at like how naive you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, like, I think we can all like maybe look back at our life. I'm not even gonna tell you what happened at 13. I could have lost my virginity there, but I was like so oblivious. So I'm not even gonna bring that up. So like, I think we'll end the show on there as if I'm the host. But like, if you have any other questions, if you have any other questions, like, I don't mind. I'm just here sitting outside like a Chipotle. Probably gonna get something to eat later. So yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Chipotle sounds good right now.
yeah, Sofrita's bowl. Like once a week I'll have one. It's not Mexican, food, but it's a good protein source. Yeah.
It is. I'm thinking of burrito right now.
Listen to you guys.
But yeah, okay. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
We might have you back one day. We'll see what our audience thinks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So Saintless Choir, if your audience likes me here, find me on YouTube. I have nothing there. I think I have one video of like the park in Broadview.
Correct.
Yeah.
You've seen it?
And on TikTok. Oh, you have? Okay. And on TikTok, I'm on Saintless again, or Saintless Choir. And I have more stuff on there. And I'm a writer. My first page in my book is there if you want to go see it. And you'll see my turtle. Not that one. I have a stuffed turtle. Anyway.
Is this a book that's published?
No. This will be my second book. My first book, again, I'm a stupid man. I was a perfectionist. So I deleted it after I finished it because I didn't. Yeah, I'm stupid. Like, it's perfectionism, unfortunately, that I had to get out of, that I eventually did. But yeah, I liked it, but I realized, did I write it because I liked it, or did I write it because this was the type of story that was popular at the time, i.e. like intergenerational family trauma from 1800s to 60s. I was writing something like that. And I realized, like, oh, I'm falling into that stupid trap because all these publishers, with all due respect, maybe I'll never get published now, are like neo-Nazi adjacent, right? Like, if you look into the history of it, there's a particular element of whiteness and supremacy, unfortunately, with a lot of these companies. So all of this was swirling up in my 20-year-old naive perfectionist self. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm going to erase it. Now I'm writing my second book. I have some elements from the first book because I think some of it was okay. But the second book is just a fun exercise. And I love writing, so I'm just doing it for fun. And if you are an artist out there, everyone is. Everyone out there is a storyteller, whether you storytell through, painting or music. Everyone's a storyteller. Just do it. Shia LaBeouf is a piece of shit, but he was right about just do it. All right.
Okay, I look forward to seeing the first page of your book. I'm intrigued.
All right. Thank you so much again for having me, Joe. Deswayne, I'll see you at work.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That was interesting. It, like I said earlier, it was a pleasant surprise. Like it was what I thought it would be, but it was so much more.
Yeah.
And funny, what crossed my mind when he was giving the role play scenario, and then you jumped in when he said, she drops the towel and bends down. You're like, oh, and then I put my dick in her mouth. And he was like, no. He was like, it's about a glance and a look and oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, no, it's okay. And what went through my head was his scenario is so appealing, so much more appealing, I should say, to women, whereas your scenario is very masculine.
Yeah, mine is very
opinion.
Let's get to the point. It's like
get to the point.
Yeah.
Right, but like even like the let's role play and like sit for an hour and talk.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, like you know what I mean? Like I don't think men fully understand that
at all.
I think for you guys, it's a lot
the
more.
Patience isn't that much.
It's not even about being patient, because I know a lot of women who just want to like get to the action, but I think there's like certain aspects of like sensuality that he highlighted that I think men sometimes miss. I already touched on
it's a choice. It's a choice. We choose to miss it.
Okay, whether it's intentional or not, y'all miss it. Yeah. I really, really loved what he said about power.
Yeah.
And I think a lot, like, I love that so much, because I really think that
people don't understand the difference.
Yeah. Or they feel like,
because the submissive one, really and truly, they don't have control, but they do have the power because they call the shots.
Mm-hmm. I think that people sometimes mistakenly think that they are giving away their power in instances where they're not as well. Like there's just so much.
Yeah.
Like we could get into it in like so many different aspects, but like I really love that. And of course the emphasis on safety,
for sure,
on empathy and on self-reflection, I think is really important, because you can talk about the fun parts of kinks, but it can be very, very dangerous if you don't know when to put. You know what, I should have asked him. I want to know like if he has like a go-to safe word, like just like how like the Kevin Hart joke, he's like pineapples or whatever. Like, do you have a word? But Yeah, I think all of that is great, and I'm really glad he was so open to share. He's clearly like very like well spoken and like
it's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's not crazy. That
No, it's
he's
crazy
well-spoken,
because like talking to him, if you don't and you just see him, you would just be like, oh, that's some quiet guy. Like you would.
He's quiet.
You would never think nothing like this. Nothing.
It's always the quiet ones.
Me and him started talking because he was talking to this girl who like I wasn't talking to like that, but like me and her were friends. And then she was telling me about this guy that she liked, but she doesn't know because he's older. And then we're just talking. And then I was doing the math one day, and I said, "Hold on, is it M?" And she was like, "How'd you know?" I'm like, "Because I'm not an idiot." So then I put 2 and 2 together, obviously. And then that's how me and him kind of started talking. And then the more me and him spoke, and they would both kind of tell me their issues and whatnot. And then even without her, me and him kept speaking. And now they're not talking. And now me and him are really talking. And I'm
Wait,
like,
so you only started talking to him because of what you heard? You basically started a friendship with him because you were nosy.
No.
Is what I'm hearing.
Okay, yeah, technically, yeah.
That's not why you kept the friendship, but that's why it started. You were inserting yourself into other people's business.
No, she inserted me by telling me.
You were happily inserted.
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
But I didn't insert myself. I wasn't like, hey, who you talking to?
You didn't put up a fight. You're like, all right, if you insist.
Don't be like, hey, I'm talking to somebody and I'm nervous, but I can't tell you who. Because now my brain's going to figure out who. Which that's what you want me to do without telling me. Duh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I did it.
But yes, if you guys have, obviously we're going to link his stuff below. Saintless Choir. But if you guys have questions that you want us to ask him again on a future episode,
for sure,
we'd be down. It seems like he would be down, so feel free to write in at thissquareroom.com. There's like a little submit a question. If you write in the subject line Saintless, write the question, and if we get a couple questions for him, we'll definitely have it back. If not, if you feel like he answered everything, that's great. Just I would say like really listen to what he says, because
for sure,
like I like that he wasn't just like, yeah, you know, I like to
plug her in the pussy.
I never thought it would be like that.
Oh,
we're talking to someone who's a little more,
you're right, developed.
I was gonna say evolved, but than you, my dear friend.
Yes.
But you're on your way.
Me understand.
But I did say, you know, we get to our listener question, we have some other things. And again, coming off of the whole power conversation, the empathy conversation, I think this next topic is very relevant in a way, in like a little bit of a roundabout way. But it's going to be in the next episode. Not next week, though. We are doing a little double feature, but we got to break it up. So tune in right now to the very next episode to continue the conversation and to talk more with Des and I, and to maybe ruffle a few feathers.
A lot of feathers.
Maybe just a few.
A lot of feathers.
But if you are going to save the next episode for, you know, a little later for your drive home, whatever it may be, don't forget to follow us as well as Saintless. We are at This Square Room on TikTok, on Instagram, and we will see you, well, right now. We'll see you in the next episode.